So my mother was visiting just before Christmas, and we decided to do a little Christmas shopping together. We went to our local mall in Santa Barbara, where we traditionally found things we liked. It's a mall with 2 flagship stores and a lot of smaller retailers. La Cumbre was in fact the first mall in Santa Barbara opening in the late 1960s. And I hadn't been there in about a year, so we were stunned when we walked through it. About 60% of the stores had closed and were left vacant. One of the flagship stores, Sears, was also in liquidation and I believe is closing this weekend. The entire mall felt like a graveyard. The energy had just gone. There were barely any people and very little Christmas spirit. And my mother and I felt probably what most shoppers felt there, a sense of sadness for what once was. We had lunch at one of the few remaining cafes, and they confirmed that indeed online shopping had overtaken physical retail outlets. La Cumbre Plaza was dying. And I'm sorry to say that you get a similar experience now when you walk up and down Santa Barbara's famous State Street. It's shocking to see how dramatically this centuries-old form of commerce has changed, and so rapidly. It's obvious that a huge cultural shift is taking place, and it's the end of an era for retail as we know it. So, a week later, imagine my surprise when one of my favorite church growth bloggers, Carrie Nieuwhof, posted a blog called "What the Slow Death of Retail Can Tell Us About the Future Church." Weird, huh? Intrigued by this blazing synchronicity, I read on. Were you aware that 3,500 churches close each year in this country? 3,500. Now, I don't want us to go by the wayside like so many local stores and churches. So clearly motivated, I read on. Nieuwhof suggests that there are 5 things the church can learn from the slow death of retail. First, inconvenience has to be overcome by reward. Right? Driving to a store takes time, gas, planning, and then the hope that they actually have what you want when you get there. And similarly, going to church takes time and intention. It means getting up and getting ready on a Sunday morning, traditionally a day of rest for most. That means leaving your Sunday paper behind, making sure to record any desired sporting events on television, then battling traffic and possibly negotiating around children's activities. And it's yet another thing to do in most people's already busy schedules. The reward of attending your church has to overcome the inconvenience of attending it, says Nieuwhof. And those rewards are seen in dynamic, personally engaging worship and the connections with others that you can't have if you remain in bed or in front of your TV or computer, right? Secondly, he says, online options are real options these days. It used to be that you'd have to attend sermons and lectures in person to get certain knowledge. But nowadays, there are plenty of online sermons, podcasts, and TED Talks available at the click of a button. So church has to offer something more than intellectual stimulation or an information download. And it must do this as part of the in-person experience to remain viable. Thirdly, Nieuwhof says that a first impression is the last impression some people will get. We have to offer an outstanding customer service experience at our front door, or people won't come back. Newcomers need to feel welcomed, engaged, and as comfortable as possible. They have to overcome inertia and introversion to even get here. So they need to make connections and see a place for themselves in this community. Wow, I'd love to sing in that choir. Or, I wonder if the children need teachers.
Yes.
Or, I'm excited by their racial justice work. How can I get involved? If they can't see a place for themselves or their kids in our community, they will likely not return. Now, our greeters talk to newcomers and find out how they decided to attend a service. And most people check us out online before they show up in person. These days, people even read online church reviews before attending. So be mindful what you say to our newcomers. Neuhoff, for his fourth part, says we need our people to share their experience of our congregation online through Google, Facebook, or nextdoor.com, and in person with people. So regular congregants sharing their personal experiences is far more powerful than advertising or promotion by church leaders. Invite a friend. Tell them what it is about this place that you love, why it's worth getting out of bed on a Sunday morning. That's what's so exciting about our Share marketing team. They're a group of congregants who feel passionately about what we do, and they want to share it more widely with others. Now, several of our Share members, and I see you in the room here, thank you, had been looking for a community like this for years. But they had no idea we even existed. And I can't tell you how often I hear newcomers say they were completely unaware of our location, much less of our faith. So our Share team is motivated and passionate about transforming that. And they're inspired and committed to sharing our gifts and finding others who would love this community as much as we do. And they're brimming with love and energy to help our tribe. And I want to thank you because you offer a big gift to our congregation if we don't want to go like retail stores. And that's exactly what led them to come up with this idea of finding an additional shorter name that could be spoken more easily when we talk about us. A name that's more memorable and inviting to outsiders, to families and friends and children. A name that inspires and invites curiosity. So back to Carey Nieuwhof. Lastly, he insists we need to be personal, caring, and relational in our interactions with people. If we fail at this, we too will go the way of retail stores, he says. We need to engage in great conversations and relate authentically to one another in order for people to be connected. Small talk is out. Big talk, meaning meaningful conversation, is in. So I challenge you at coffee hour, see what important topics you can talk about with one another, things that really matter. Because deeper connection is one of the greatest gifts that we offer that the online experience simply can't compete with. Now, sure, you may engage rhetorically with people on Facebook and have superficial, light connections with many, but to have meaningful conversations, hugs, and laughter, well, you need to be together in person, right? And get to know one another. Amen. It's no surprise that there's an epidemic of loneliness, division, and depression during a time when we're more digitally connected than ever. An in-person, multi-generational spiritual community like ours can be life-saving and 1,000 times warmer than the cold of cyberspace. Am I right? My ministry mentors are telling me that our profession is dramatically different now than it was even 10 years ago. Our society is transforming at a much faster pace than ever before due to 24/7 technology, globalization, and a new world order. Heck, everything has changed radically in just the past 2 years or so. Have you noticed? We're seeing a rapid dissolution of traditional values that we thought were set. And there's an unraveling of institutions and the way things have been done for decades. So I find myself needing to stretch constantly to adapt to these times and the new normal of 2019. And it can be uncomfortable. In light of that and the fact that I believe in my very bones that we have something vital to offer those who can find our door, the biggest gift we can all give this congregation now is to allow ourselves to be flexible and move with these rapidly changing times. None of us wants our beloved community to be left behind or become irrelevant, do you? What we offer here is too important. And by the very fact that you got out of bed and are here this morning, you are attesting to that. Now, you might have heard people say that Unitarian Universalists are theologically progressive, but ecclesiastically conservative and a little old-fashioned. Now, what does this mean? When people find us, they're usually thrilled by our open-mindedness and our theological pluralism. We are truly a 21st century faith at the religious cutting edge. But for many younger people, when they experience the traditional sermon sandwich service with a few hymns on either side and a standard Protestant church experience, they say they'd much rather attend an experiential group like yoga, chanting, or meditation. There they can undertake their spiritual practice without the traditional, often stifling trappings of institutional church. So why should we care about this? We love what we do here, right? Many of you have been coming here for 20, 30, or 40 plus years, and you've watched us grow and are comfortable here. You like things the way they are. You built this amazing place, after all, and you've invested years of money, time, effort into this fellowship to make it what it is. Thank you. Huge thank you to you all. You have your friends, your routines, and your sense of what this community is for you. So why should we change? Just because times have changed and younger generations do things differently. Let me say, I really understand and honor you. As we age, it can feel comforting to hold on to things that we're familiar with, and I do the very same thing. Change can threaten a known with an unknown. And we already know what we like here, right? So why risk losing that? But my friends, we're at a critical juncture now, and I can't overstate that. If we're not growing and adapting, getting our message out to others, then we're stagnating and not sustainable in the future. And we're missing out on some exciting opportunities. As a mother of a teenager who is so wonderfully sitting in the back of the room there, not looking at his cell phone at all, I find that whenever I'm fixed in my ways, whenever I insist that things are done in a certain way, or that he get off his cell phone, I not only close down the life force within me, but I alienate further connection with my son. I have to keep stretching myself on a daily basis to remain in conversation and connection, or be sidelined. I have to be willing to let go of how I was raised and how things were done in my family's past. If all I do is condemn today's music, games, and social media, for example, because I don't understand it, and we didn't have that when I was young, I'll create a large disconnect with my son. But if instead I remain curious and find out how these things allow teenage boys to connect, to compete, and to bond, and why it makes them happy, I build a bridge that allows us to have a dialogue. Right, Gabriel? If I can be curious and inquire about his new ways, then I can receive one of the greatest spiritual lessons of parenting, remembering that he too has many things to teach me. So what are people looking for now in a church, and what are young people trying to teach us? I've been exploring that question for the last 6 years through my entrepreneurial ministry program and through the work with the 4 congregations I've served. Millennials are dealing with massive disillusionment. Can you imagine coming of age at this time? They are maturing in the midst of radical societal change. When I was young, adults could let you know, this is how you need to prepare for life. This is what you need to do to be successful. Now, we may not have listened, but most of us eventually acknowledged that things like working hard, saving money, and buying a house were a pretty good idea. But nowadays, everything is changing so fast that we can't count on the traditional ways to remain true. As Gabriel grows up, I watch as even the path to college and a job beyond is no longer clear. What they're studying in school now may have little relevance in the job market in 10 or even 5 years from now. Things are changing so quickly. And I see the educators in our room nodding. Colleagues of mine, Casper ter Kuile and Angie Thurston, are experts on the future of organized religion. After doing several nationally recognized studies while theological students at Harvard, they're now employed by NPR to look at future religious trends. Casper and Angie say we're going through seismic religious change. Seismic. And that religious innovation is happening all over America. In their groundbreaking study, How We Gather, they found that millennials are replacing church communities by experiencing meaning and belonging in maker spaces, in co-working hubs, in dinner parties, fitness boot camps, and fan communities. In fact, people under 35 seem to be looking for spirituality and community, but not with traditional institutions. Casper and Angie uncovered 6 key experiences that religiously unaffiliated millennials seek. These are community, personal transformation, social transformation, purpose finding, creativity, and accountability. Now, I'd say we can easily offer them the first 4: community, personal transformation, social transformation, and purpose finding. But they seem to be able to find a lot of these experiences in secular organizations too, such as Soul Cycle, CrossFit, or Live in the Gray, or yoga centers, just to name a few. They want to be part of dynamic organizations that move with the times. Casper and Angie say that most religious institutions are particularly lacking in upholding accountability, guiding purpose finding, and unleashing creativity. And they guess that this impacts participation, sustainable finances, and scalable growth for churches. But Casper and Angie found that millennials also care about collective well-being and the circle that encompasses all. In another study, Something More, they found that whether you call it the profound, the transcendent, or even God, Young America thirsts for that which forms the ground of our being. They challenge religious institutions to ask, what can we offer which would bring people together to hold each other accountable, to discern purposeful work, stimulate creativity, participate in mutual growth, and deeply experience the profound. Sounds a lot like what we do, doesn't it? But we have to be more than a social group, a justice organization, or a club. We have to offer people something that they can't get anywhere else. Because people are no longer looking for a replacement for the dogmatic church of their childhoods. While they may often be running away from that, they don't need to run anywhere. They can just stay home and not do church at all. So Casper and Angie insist that we need to encourage curiosity over self-preservation. Let me say that again. Curiosity over self-preservation. Curiosity about what matters, what changes they might need so that we can stay relevant for all generations to come. Now, I've heard again and again from our young people that the UUism they experience at camps, at conferences, and General Assembly is dynamic and engaging. They love it because of its authenticity, its vitality, and the deep connections they form. Yet often, when they go to adult church, they don't find the same connections and they stop going. Now, I don't want to lose our young people, our future generations. Do you? No. They're too important. So these are challenging, rapidly changing times. We can stay as we are and gradually go by the wayside like retail in America, but that breaks my heart. And I'm guessing it would break yours a little too, because I know you love this place. What we have to offer here is too important to allow us to go by the wayside, to allow that to happen. If we care about the future of this congregation and indeed live into our mission of being spiritually courageous people who transform the world, we need to be open to embracing some change. Are you with me? Yes. We have to gather our spiritual courage more than ever before so that we can minister to current and future generations who desperately need what we have to offer in this time of dissolution. We may need to entertain some uncomfortable questions and open our minds and hearts to new solutions. But I'm willing to feel uncomfortable, scary as it might be, as we navigate how to respond to these times. And I would rather do that hand in hand with you in shared ministry. So are you willing to join me? Yes. Because it's scary for me too. And I need you. And we need each other. George Bernard Shaw said, "Progress is impossible without change. And those who cannot change their minds cannot change anything." And we really don't have a choice, for as the Greek philosopher Heraclitus famously said, change is the only constant in life. So my friends, I know change can feel scary and unappealing, but the rewards will be great. The rewards will be felt in a dynamic, multi-generational, vibrant community that serves as an oasis for people of all ages and needs. The rewards will be felt in truly living out our mission and making this difficult time a little better together. The rewards will be felt in a community, a sanctuary that ministers to us all with spiritual depth and vitality. And the rewards will be felt in a fellowship that refuses to stagnate and continues to thrive for generations to come. I invite you to open your minds, open your hearts, and join me in thriving on this wondrous journey. May it be so. Amen.